They're going to have to ride that sway-backed horse because that's the one they got that's already shod and ready to go. But speaking of another horse they can ride in the future, next up was MJF in-ring promo. Let me say this. Again, everything that MJF does is better than everybody else's shit because he's the incredible promo of the day. I'd love to see him and Heyman. Just give me 2 hours of him and Heyman. But he's an incredible promo. He works hard. He thinks about things. I'm not even going to blister him right now here publicly because it may have been a 1-week aberration. He's starting to fall into a bad habit that I kind of maybe understand, but hopefully he'll nip up out of it.
The yelling?
The always being mad at the opponent, mad at the people. He was trying to get the people to boo him, but he sounded mad at them instead of dismissive of them or mocking of them or whatever, like they're below him, blah, blah, blah. There's more than one way to get a heel reaction. But he had to talk about Moxley for a minute, obviously, because, you know, that's where MJF's attention is being pointed is the world title. And he said last week, I'm not going to mess with this tournament. I'm just going to, if it's Moxley, fine. I'll be going after him afterwards. And then he introduced Stokely and as his best friend for, 10 years or whatever. And Stokely's group, which is called The Firm, which is a stable on retainer for MJF. Okay, I see what they're trying to do. I applaud the effort. A promo segment after a promo segment is tough to do because people have been hearing a lot of talk, and they hear MJF, and then he hands it off to Stokely, and Stokely's got to start giving his backstory from scratch. And Stokely can talk, and they were trying to do something here that they never do, which is actually explain shit. Who are these people? Why did they come together? What is their motivation? What are their goals? I understand. We've been begging them to do that, right? And I understand that. And again, and I hate to, at this point, I hate to even make people think I'm bitching about stuff just to bitch now. But when they first start explaining people and their motivations and how a group came together and whatever, they have 10 minutes of promo with MJF, and then they hand it off to the new manager to do another 10 minutes and introduce everybody individually, and it started getting long. I will just say that you don't need to explain everything about everybody all in the same segment. And so, I mean, I know it's feast or famine, and at least they're doing the right thing. But, it got, the Guns are great in this group, the Gun Boys. The 7-foot Greg Allman can be useful in a group. I don't think he's a single. He's never going to be a single attraction as a giant or whatever, but in a group as muscle, that's great. Lee Moriarty with green hair makes him, I think, look indie and outlaw. And I wouldn't have started with him in the group. I may have brought him in later on, but to start out with 5 guys that have either been used underneath or not at all, and one of them's got green hair, we're starting already to get a little visually fucking off-putting. And the last one, of course, the other Page, you like him, you think there's something there. I can't stand him. I think he's a wrestling pretend wannabe wrestler, and he plays a part rather than is one. I don't like anything about him. And that started when he was another one of these fucking jolly jokers that wants to do the comedic videos and wrestle himself in Impact. I know, but I never forget things, so I don't forget that either. I think he's useless. So you got 2 young talents that really do deserve escalation in this group. You got 7-foot Greg Allman. He's the muscle. Lee Moriarty, I guess, is there, whatever the fuck. The other Page, what happened to Scorpio Sky? I know Lambert's been gone for a while. Did they ever carry Lambert out on a stretcher or put him in the back of an ambulance and send him to a medical facility? Is there any explanation for where Lambert went, or was he just allowed to come in, make mockery of the company, talk bad about all the fans, every once in a while get bumped around, but never any decisive, we got even with this motherfucker and got rid of him, he just left, right?
Right. I don't think that's exactly right. And what a horrible run it was.
And did he take Scorpio Sky with him? Because Scorpio Sky and the other Page were supposedly MMA fighters and tough guys and all this stuff.
I think he's hurt. I could be wrong, but I think Scorpio Sky's hurt.
Another
he's still under
one.
Contract. Yeah.
Okay, well, so is everybody. Yeah, my Aunt Lola's under contract at this point to AEW. So anyway, Stokely is not a manager. He's a friend that gets things done, and he loves blackmail. And like I said, it only got long when he had to go into each guy and what their programs are going to be already. And the only ones over with the crowd was the Guns. And this is the other Page wants the All-Atlantic title so he can represent Canada. He'd be the only one that either wants the All-Atlantic title or wants to represent Canada. And I think that Canada could probably come up with a better representation than the other Page. But, I mean, Stokely can talk, and I guess at least if it's a stable on retainer, that MJF can use them for his nefarious purposes, but doesn't have to be out there with them all the time, which, if it was him and Stokely, he'd bring Stokely up. He doesn't need a manager to talk, but, you know, an interferer in the corner. But with the other rest of the group, it would not elevate MJF having to be in a group with all these people regularly. So that's a good thing there. What'd you think?
It went really long, or felt like it did at least. By the time he started introducing the guys, it already felt like it had gone long. And then you realize after the first guy, oh, this is going to take a few minutes.
Yeah.
He could talk, but he was kind of overexposed here. Cut it down next time. I mean, you had to explain something, but all those guys have already been in AEW for a while, other than, what's his name? Morrissey. Other than him, everyone else has been there for a while, and everyone knows who he is. But I guess you want to explain this. You want to have some background to it. We'll see where they go. I would have liked to have heard more from MJF, but I do think he's yelling a bit too much.
And again, yes, you want to explain everything, but not all in the same week. You don't show people, a bunch of people doing a bunch of things for 5 or 6 weeks and then come out and in one promo segment, you explain everything. Now, I've got some notes here for those of you who might have forgotten. 1 week, MJF could have introduced Stokely, and Stokely could have come out and said everything he said about himself, and that he had assembled a group that you were going to be seeing more of and hearing more about because they were going to be dominating because he's a guy that gets things done. And then we already know some of who's in it because they were involved in the deal at the pay-per-view. So why couldn't he come out next week and bring out the Guns and talk about what they're going to do? And then maybe another guy, and maybe the other guy's the next week, just in increments. Nobody needed to know all that at the same time, but it was welcome to see explanations.